are both glimmers of hope and reasons for serious alarm today when it comes to assessing the health of our democracy. Every authoritarian escalation by Donald Trump and his cabinet is being met with an equal and opposite reaction from the American people. Consider the news breaking last night that the Justice Department failed to secure an indictment against the 6 Democratic lawmakers who released a video simply reminding the men and women of the military that every one of them swore an oath to the Constitution and are thus duty-bound to refuse any illegal orders. It's a message that in normal times would not be newsworthy, would not be controversial, frankly, wouldn't even need to be said. Our colleague Carol Leonnig is reporting that prosecutors tried to charge the 6 with seditious conspiracy. That is a felony, and it carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison. That is the same charge brought against the most violent and most organized insurrectionists behind the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. And given that Donald Trump accused them of, quote, seditious behavior punishable by death, this case was an attempt to turn the justice system into a tool for Donald Trump's vendettas. But a grand jury stood in the way of all that. New York Times puts it like this, quote, it was remarkable that the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, led by Jeanine Pirro, a longtime ally of Trump's, authorized prosecutors to go into a grand jury and ask for an indictment of the 6 members of Congress, all of whom had served in the military or the nation's spy agencies. But it was even more remarkable that a group of ordinary citizens sitting on the grand jury in federal district court in Washington forcefully rejected Trump's bid to label their expression of dissent as a criminal act warranting prosecution. Here's what 2 of those 6 lawmakers, Senators Elissa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, had to say about the failed attempt to indict them at a press conference earlier today.
Our democracy has been around for 250 years, but it is not guaranteed. From the very beginning of our nation, it has depended on the willingness of patriotic Americans to fight for it. Senator Slotkin and I, we did not ask for this. We're just the first through the breach. But you'll be damn sure that we are not going to back down.
Some of you know that I recently lost my father a couple weeks ago. And my father taught me 2 things. He taught me right from wrong, and he taught me to love this country. Senator Kelly and I have both served our country. We have risked our lives for our country. This country has given me everything. So if we have to sit here and take physical intimidation and legal intimidation to uphold the country we love, we will happily do that.
This country has given me everything. That U.S. Senator, Elissa Slotkin, will be our guest later in this hour. But in other news, on Capitol Hill, Attorney General Pam Bondi faced sharp questioning and stern rebukes from Democrats today. Congressman Jamie Raskin accused her of turning the Justice Department into a, quote, vendetta factory as it pursues these cases and cases against anyone Donald Trump deems as a critic or opponent. Watch that.
You and the president nominated Eric Siebert, a 15-year career prosecutor, to be your U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. But after 5 months of investigating Letitia James and James Comey, he found no evidence to justify criminal charges. So you forced him out. You replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, Trump's personal lawyer from the Mar-a-Lago documents case, who had 0 prosecutorial experience and no qualifications. And then you were humiliated when a federal judge found that this corrupt appointment was blatantly unlawful and threw out Halligan's indictments entirely. And grand juries of American citizens have repeatedly rejected your vendettas and baseless indictments brought by the hacks left at DOJ now, with 2 different grand juries in Virginia voting down indictments against Letitia James in a single week. And just yesterday, another grand jury shut down your vendetta factory by rejecting indictments against the 6 members of Congress who had spoken out to remind all service members that they have a duty to refuse illegal orders. You tried to get a grand jury to indict 6 members of Congress who are veterans of our armed forces on charges of seditious conspiracy simply for exercising their First Amendment rights. I hope you will heed the wisdom and the constitutional patriotism of those grand jurors and not try it again by doubling down on that humiliation. As your best lawyers are sacked for having participated in the January 6th case or just flee for the exits.
That is where we begin today. Joining me now, former top DOJ official, legal analyst Andrew Weissmann is here with us. With me at the table, New York Times investigative reporter Mike Schmidt, who is byline on the New York Times reporting we read from. And J.P. Cooney is here. He was deputy to former special counsel Jack Smith, prosecuting both federal cases against Donald Trump. Today, he announced that he is launching a congressional bid in Virginia. We'll talk to him about that race in a minute. But we start with this extraordinary, of all the things that shouldn't become normal, it seems like federal prosecutors failing in front of grand juries to achieve indictments when they go in with just one side of the case is one thing that shouldn't become normal. I think we saw a rate of like 99.6% before the Trump era. This is not normal to go in and not get indictments.
It is not normal, and it demonstrates the loss of trust and credibility that this Justice Department has with, I think, all the American people, but with the citizens of the District of Columbia who were in that grand jury. The presumption of regularity of grand jury proceedings, of prosecutors going in good faith with evidence to a grand jury to seek charges, is something that this Justice Department, this administration, has eroded by targeting its perceived political opponents, the people it disagrees with indictments like the one that they sought in the District of Columbia yesterday.
But it's also happened in the Eastern District of Virginia.
Which just illustrates, again, this starts all the way at the top with the President of the United States and through his handpicked Attorney General. They are directing political prosecutions, ones not based on evidence, but based on people's beliefs and their disagreements with this administration. They're targeting their political opponents.
I mean, Mike, take us through what you and your colleagues are reporting, because it seems like, I mean, my understanding from the story is that, and from covering a few of these now, is that they go in and literally present one side of the case, and grand juries hearing one side are saying no.
Yeah, look, this is something that we've never seen before, starting with the political prosecutions. So that effort has clearly set off something with the average citizen. We now have several different examples of grand juries, including, the individual who threw the sandwich, the cases of James and Comey, this case. There are different examples of the average citizen not taking the Justice Department at their word and not going along with the indictments that they want. And this comes back to a very simple thing. And Donald Trump was told this repeatedly by his aides in the first term, which is don't talk about prosecutions, because whatever you say as the most powerful person in the country will cast a shadow on that case, because everyone will think it is being done for you. So even if those prosecutors walked in yesterday and thought that they had all the evidence in the world and the greatest case that could be, they are trying to overcome.
Did they, though, think that the prosecutors?
I don't know what they thought they had. But at the end of the day, the Justice Department can't do what Donald Trump wants because they're trying to overcome what he has said. Because no one is going to take the Justice Department at face value when they are coming in to try and make a case against someone who he has publicly identified, not just as an enemy, but someone who should be charged. And that is, and having to try to convince a jury of something when you're up against that, I think is shown to be a very difficult thing.
And extends down not just to cases like the one that was presented in D.C. yesterday, but anecdotally, I'm hearing in the District of Columbia that grand juries are no-billing, meaning refusing prosecutors' indictments in cases involving guns and violent crime and things like that. And
because they don't believe them?
Because they don't believe the prosecutors.
It erodes the trust in the Justice Department. And this is the whole thing. It's like, well, why is the President of the United States supposed to have an arm's length distance from the Justice Department? And it's because if he or she starts weighing in about it, then it casts this shadow on what they do. And the average person can't accept at face value that they are doing things simply based on the law and the facts.
Well, Andrew Weissmann, let me pull you in on this. I mean, I think that's because the average citizen is right. There is no crime in the 6 members of Congress using their First Amendment right to say something that I think is so accepted. It is the norm to say to the military, do not accept illegal orders. I think it's etched on a building somewhere. I mean, it is the most non-controversial thing you could say to and about the military.
Yeah, I mean, I agree essentially with all of you, not to sound like a Pollyanna, but I mean, it is absolutely right what Mike is saying, but it is also worth remembering they just don't have the facts. There's no crime there. There's a reason that the reporting is that the career people in the DC U.S. Attorney's Office, just like the career people in the Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney's Office, didn't have anything to do with this and wouldn't have anything to do with it, that it had to be handpicked people reporting to Jeanine Pirro who went to the grand jury. That tells you everything, as well as, of course, all of the people resigning because they can't stomach this. But just let's remember, they just do not have the facts. What it tells you is, of course, the grand jurors are just looking at the facts in the law. This isn't a question of jury nullification. This is a question of actually looking at the law and the facts and saying there's no there. But what it tells you is how completely out of control and authoritarian Trump 2.0 is. And it tells you that the people who we were hearing were sort of on the inside in Trump 1.0 really did have an effect. As bad as things were, as we saw from the outside, there is no one saying no. No respectable prosecutor would ever have presented this. And I know it sounds like people are thinking, oh, this is Democrats and Republicans. It isn't. And that's what people need to know. Like, JP is a career prosecutor who worked under, administrations, Republican and Democratic. And so when we're talking about this, it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with, adhering to your oath of office and presenting a case only when the facts support it and the law supports it.